This is the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, and this is episode number 91. Hi, friends. I'm Curtis J. Washington. And look, the purpose of this podcast is simple. We are constantly being bombarded with messages like, we could be happy if only we had a particular thing, or we could be successful if only we made X amount of dollars, or we could be at peace if only so-and-so loved me. These messages are not only disempowering, but also they are simply not true. This is because it's not about where you are and where you want to be. It's about who you are right now and who you wish to become. Once you know what the ideal you looks like, then you will automatically start becoming aware of what steps you can take right now to move in the right direction. And the goal of this podcast is to help you look within and discover all the love, all the beauty, and all of the unlimited potential that you already possess, and for you to set it free for you and for the world to see. Welcome to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, where we explore practical and actionable steps that you can take to help manifest the greatness that you already possess deep inside. And today we're going to talk about how to discover what drives you, what truly drives you from the inside. What is it that you are meant to do? What is it that just brings out that spark when you do it? We're going to talk about how to identify that. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to also say that be sure you check out the manifestyourgreatness.com website. Again, more new free resources available. Sign up for the newsletter. It's simple. I even give you a free complimentary webinar for just signing up, and you don't want to miss it. It's a great webinar that's going to help you really take a step forward in moving from acceptable to exceptional. And that's what the webinar is all about. And it's free. Just sign up for the newsletter on manifestyourgreatness.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and click subscribe. Now, let's talk about discovering what moves you. Now, this is a great tool that you can use. It's very easy to do. You just got to give yourself a little bit of time, but trust me, the effort will be worth it. I get a lot of questions about how do I know what my purpose is? How do I find out what I'm supposed to be doing? How do I know if I'm really doing and on the way to doing more of what is going to feel like true success to me, right? Now, there is a way to get a really good idea of what you're doing and where it's taking you, for better or for worse, right? This is a very eye-opening exercise. Now, what I recommend that you do is to take a step back and to think about all of the activities that you are involved in a given day. Now, I'm not talking just about work. I'm talking about if you have kids, spending time with your kids. I'm talking about if you have a vacation plan, where are you going on that vacation? What are you going to be doing on that vacation? And with respect to work, don't just say, I work and it's not something I enjoy. I want you to really think about, what are you doing at work? We're going to break it down, okay? We're going to take a closer look at it. Now, what we're going to do with this information is we're going to determine what is driving you intrinsically versus extrinsically, right? Now, in another episode, I talked about the different types of motivations, but in this episode, I'm going to talk about why it's so important you identify the difference between what is internally and externally motivating you. It's very important, okay? So take a moment to look at what you are doing in your day, okay? Pull it out of your schedule, pull it out of your notes, whatever it is. If you're not writing down some of the things that you're doing, like taking the kids to school or whatever it may be, write it down now. This is your opportunity. Now, we're going to write it all down, all these activities that you do throughout the day. And again, incorporate what you have planned, what you've done vacation-wise in the past. If you have projects that are done, think about those projects that you did. Really, you want to get an inventory of activities you've done recently and what you've planned to do in the near future. and including, of course, what you're doing now and what you're routinely doing, right? Now, once you have that list, I want you to take some time and after you've written everything down, go over each activity, and I want you to tune in to how you feel about each of these activities. And I want you to ask yourself this question: do I do this because I love to do it, or do I do this because of an external motivation? So is this something that I would do if I wasn't getting any kind of monetary benefit from it or anything like that? Or is this something that I do because I know that if I don't do it, I'm going to get in trouble, or I'm not going to get paid, or I'm not going to stay healthy? These are all extrinsic motivators. Now, granted, some of these are going to be closer to your core values, like perhaps eating well and exercising is closely aligned with your core values of wanting to stay healthy. So that's also something that we want to identify, right? So we're going to write all this out and we're going to put them into these different buckets. I want you to think about the activities that you do because there is an external motivator. This could be, like I was saying, it could be monetarily, it could be money. It could be keeps you out of trouble. It could be because it's a rule. It could be because if I don't, who's going to do it? It could be if I don't, I'll feel guilty. All of these things, right? So take these activities and I want you to think about where you are in terms of the motivation. Where's that drive coming from? Okay. Now, with respect to work, I talked about this before. The reason why I want you to look at the activities throughout your day that you're doing at work is because it's very easy to just say, I don't like my job, right? Now, what is harder, but often more rewarding, is to understand where in your job during any given day are you having the opportunity to do things that actually do bring you some joy, that actually make you feel like fulfilled, that you feel good about, that you feel like you're doing what you're meant to do, that really drives you inside, that you're like, oh, this is great. I'm glad I get the opportunity to do this, right? So we're going to break that down. So once you have all of these listed out and you've put them into buckets, I want you to take a look at what you see. Now, you will have a bucket. Let's call one the internal motivations bucket. So all of the activities that you do that you would do regardless, that you really would love to do more of. So if you have a vacation that you've been on recently and there was something specific that you did during that vacation that you wish you could do more of, that would be something you would do, of course, if you had a choice, right? I'd love to do more of that. If you spend time with your kids and there's certain activities you do because you feel guilty, because if you don't do them, you feel like you're not spending quality time, but then there's other activities you do with your kids, you're like, oh, I wish I could do more of that with them. Those would be in two different buckets, right? Same kids, two different buckets. So that's the same thing you're going to do for all of these categories. So work as well, break them up, break them out. Now, what you're going to notice is that you're going to have these two separate categories and you're going to have activities that are going to make you feel good, activities that you wish you could do more of. It could be because you're serving in the way that you want. It could be because it feels more aligned with your core values and your beliefs. These are the things that you gravitate towards and you would just do more often if you had a choice. You're going to find other activities, not so much. You're going to find activities that you do out of fear, right? You're going to have activities you do out of guilt. I call cousin so-and-so because if I don't, I'm going to feel bad, right? You're doing that out of guilt. That would be external motivation. Now, if you were calling them because you just wanted to say hello and you were concerned about their well-being, that would be internal, right? That would be intrinsic, right? That'd be something that you would do regardless because it's coming from inside. That's something that you would love to do. If you're doing it because you feel like you have to, obviously it's not coming from inside. Or if you feel guilty if you don't do it, not coming from inside. So once you have everything broken out and you're able to identify the activities that you're doing where you're not being motivated by any internal factors and ones that you are, I want you to take a closer look and look at what makes them so. So look at those activities more carefully. Look for similarities across those activities. Same in this other bucket, right? Now, why this is so powerful is because oftentimes when we're trying to figure out what do we want to do? What drives us? What do we want to become? What do we want to do more of? What's the person that I really want to become more like? Who do I want to be? Right? What do I want to do? It gets hard when there's demands coming in from you on the outside and we don't have a moment to really think about what we would do if we had a choice. Because the truth is, we have a choice. And that's another thing empowering about this exercise. You're getting the power, you're putting them in these buckets, you're seeing the activities, you're breaking them down. You are doing these things because you choose to do them. So that's the first thing we want to recognize. You have the choice, whether it's something that it's motivating you internally or not. It's your choice. Now that you know you have a choice, that's very empowering, isn't it? Now that you know that you have a choice, what can you start to move from the extrinsic to the intrinsic? What activities can you either redefine? Is there a way to make that phone call to your cousin something that you would do because it's what you really want to do? If there is, let's redefine that, right? Because that's going to do two things. One, you're going to feel much better about making the choice to call that person, right? And two, it's going to reinforce what you are doing as being aligned with who you are. And that's the goal, right? You want to be doing more of the things that really define who you are. You want to be 100% unapologetically you, right? That's the goal. So we're looking at these lists and we're trying to figure out how we can move things that currently we are motivated externally to do, try to move as much as we can over to the internal. And what we can't, how can we start to replace those? How can we start to change those? Remember, we were talking about work. Once you started with work, it may have all have been over here. But then when you broke it down and you went, but I do like getting an opportunity to do this and this and this. This happens at work, so I can move this over here. Now, you've got the same job, but you've got things that you're internally motivated to do and externally motivated to do. How can you get more of the work that you're doing to mimic this feeling of the intrinsic motivation, right? How can you find similar activities, right? Maybe there's a big chunk of what you do for a living that you really do like, but there's things other than that that are encompassed within that you wish you could separate yourself from. Once you've identified that, you can start building, right? You can start building. So, for example, and nothing against accountants, if you are an accountant and you start to realize that you really love working with numbers, but you really don't like telling people, this is their expenses and their income. Maybe you have something against working with balance sheets and profit and loss statements, but you love numbers, right? And you're able to identify, I'd work with numbers if I had a choice, regardless. You wouldn't have to pay me to work with numbers. I like math. You've taken that chunk out of accounting. Maybe there's another job, another career, another opportunity that you can pursue where you get to keep the core that you love and you get to add some of these other activities that you've already identified as being internally motivating things to do. And you can actually build something out of that. But it all starts with understanding, what are you doing, right? It starts with breaking it down, right? It starts with making a list. You cannot manage what you can't measure, right? So definitely take that time. Once you've done that, it will be very eye-opening. And there's nothing wrong with doing things that you're externally motivated to do, but it's very important to understand what they are and to remind yourself that you have the power to choose to do them or not. Once you realize you're doing them because it's your choice, and it is, right? Some people may say, oh, wait, no, but if I don't go and get up and go to work, then, I'm going to get fired. Well, is it your choice to go to work or not? It is, right? So you do have a choice. And that's something that I really want everyone to remember. At the end of the day, these are all our choices. And what this activity is designed to do is to help you realize what are the choices you are making that you enjoy making, you enjoy doing, the things that you're doing now, you love to do and you would do more of. So this is my challenge for you today. I want you to go through your calendar and I want you to start looking at where you're spending your time. Start thinking about what you're doing and start working on listing those activities out that you're doing and get a better understanding of if they are externally motivated things that you're doing or internally motivated things that you're doing. Break them up, understand the difference between those two, and then look for those similarities and look for opportunities to start filling up that internally motivated bucket with more activities. Thank you so much for joining this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, and I look forward to spending time with you again on an episode in the near future. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. If you liked what we've explored on this episode, then you'll love the Manifest Your Greatness coaching program. The Manifest Your Greatness coaching program is uniquely tailored to help support you on your journey to become the absolute best version of yourself. So if you are committed to taking the steps required to significantly and permanently level up in any area of your life, visit manifestyourgreatness.com/contact. Again, that's manifestyourgreatness.com/contact and schedule your free consultation call today. Talk soon.